covering the stories that impact your life, your town, your state, and your future. This is the Means Report with your host, Brad Means.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Means Report. We certainly appreciate you spending part of your day with us, where today we are taking the headlines, as we love to do on the Means Report, and turning them in to a 30-minute broadcast so that we can go more in depth and get more perspective on what's happening. And the headline, the big one that we kicked off this week with, was all of the excitement at Plant Vogtle, celebrating the start of the life of unit number 3. It went online to provide clean energy for so many people in our area. And we're going to talk about what's going on at Vogtle and what the future could hold down there. You know, there's another unit just on the verge of getting to go online. So we'll look into that for sure. Our next segment is staying with the Southern Company Georgia Power theme, where we'll take a look at your electric bill. These are the dog days of summer. I know the electric bills are higher than usual, perhaps. And so we'll look at what it takes for that bill to get where it does, and probably more importantly, what you can do to help reduce your power costs. And of course, we'll always wrap up the Means Report with ways that you can stay in touch with us and help shape future editions. It is easy. And it is a pleasure to welcome our first guest from Georgia Power. He is Jason Cuevas. He is the Vice President for the East region, has a lot of responsibilities, and it's been a busy week for you, Jason, I know. So thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Absolutely. Great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I want to just get a feel for what's going on with Unit 3. As I said, our top story Monday night, I believe it was, and we record this on Thursday, was the activation, if you will, of unit number 3. So is it fully up and running, and is it providing electricity? Kind of set the scene.
So yes, and you know, July 31st really was a historic day here in the CSRA, for here in Georgia, and really for the country, because Georgia Power and our co-owners, we brought Unit 3, Vogtle Unit 3, into commercial operation. And so what that means is we're producing clean, safe, reliable electricity for millions of customers across the state.
That's incredible. I mean, that it is fired up and it is providing that electricity already. Now, I know that some people, once they heard the words either Plant Vogtle or Georgia Power, wanted to know this. That unit has taken a bit longer than expected. It has resulted in a few $1 billion in expenditures that were over the budget. What happened there? Why did that happen? And did y'all anticipate those overages?
Well, I mean, building the first new nuclear units in 30 years is a complicated task. It's no easy feat. I mean, think about, we had to stand up a domestic supply chain, stand up a global supply chain, reestablish a nuclear workforce, everyone from engineers to craft labor, and really just reestablish an industry here in the United States. Add to that, there's challenges that are part of any big project. Navigating a global pandemic, navigating the bankruptcy of our prime contractor. So it was complicated. Yes, it took longer than we would have originally liked, but we were steadfast in our commitment, as are our co-owners, the regulators, in getting this done and getting it done right.
Jason, look at that pandemic period, if you will. Go back to, say, March of 2020 and then going forward. Did it go from just a hub of activity down there at Vogtle to a dead stop, or to a huge slowdown because of the supply chain and pandemic issues?
So we did see some slowing in supply chain, certainly. It's a critical infrastructure project, so construction was able to continue, but we had workforce dynamics and workforce management that we had to work through, and there was no playbook for that. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty significant undertaking.
All right. Take me inside those units. We see them when we drive by. Mm-hmm. What happens in there? Is it just a bunch of neutrons and atoms running into each other, and then we get our electricity? What goes on inside the towers, the units?
Sure. So there are fuel assemblies that are in the reactor vessel, and effectively we are splitting atoms to create steam, which then spins the turbines and puts the electricity onto the grid. So it's a very complicated process, but at the core, that's what's occurring. And then it leaves the plant. It goes into a large substation, transmission substation, and gets transmitted all around the state, and then into smaller substations where the electrons go into the distribution system and come to your home, come to your business, come right here to WJBF.
It's amazing. What about the waste? People have raised questions about radioactive waste coming out of those units. Is there waste, and if so, where do y'all put it?
So spent fuel is stored on site. It's initially stored in the cooling pool, and then after a number of years, we remove that spent fuel and store it in what's known as dry cask storage there on site. And we can store the spent fuel there for decades.
What are casks? Just super thick cement containers?
Yes, basically. Yeah.
And you say decades. Should we be alarmed? What you just said, I completely comprehended, but should that alarm anybody? Do you have a plan after those decades have passed and that stuff's still sitting there?
So no, I mean, it's very safely stored. When you think about spent fuel, there's other applications as well, for medical uses, for example, nuclear medicine. There's no policy in this country yet to reprocess fuel and use it again, but that also is a technical possibility.
Where do you get the water to cool the units?
So the water for the cooling systems themselves is groundwater. For the spent fuel pool.
Right.
The water for the system that circulates, that cool the other aspects of the plant comes from the river.
Yeah.
It's a relatively small amount of water that we have to pull for the river for that.
All right. Do you hear these fears, by the way? I don't want to just be berating you with questions about Vogtle and the possibilities of a drought or radioactive waste or anything like that. Y'all have to hear these concerns at Georgia Power, don't you?
Yeah, but we've been operating nuclear safely for decades. Vogtle units 1 and 2 have been online since 1987 and 1989, respectively. There's another plant down near Vidalia, Georgia, Plant Hatch, which we just relicensed for another 20 years. Alabama Power, our sister company, operates a nuclear plant near Eufaula, Alabama. And again, they've been a large part of our generation mix for years and will be for years to come.
Well, I think the big news about the reactors at Vogtle is that they do produce this so-called clean energy. My question is, what about when businesses are considering coming to Georgia? Do they look at things like that? And you hear about so many people going green. Do they say, hey, we want to know how the energy is produced before we relocate here?
So nuclear is a big part of our net zero energy future. And if a low carbon or no carbon energy future is important to you, nuclear has to be part of that mix. Many of our customers have their own net zero objectives and goals as well, and they rely on the clean, safe nuclear power to be part of that. So you think about from an economic development standpoint. Georgia's been rated the #1 state in which to do business for 9 years going now by Site Selection magazine. We believe that this energy supply is a big part of that and will convince businesses to expand here, convince other businesses and companies to locate here, and continue to be one of the driving forces of the state's economy.
Where do we stand on Unit 4? Is its activation imminent at this point?
Yes, so fuel is on site. We have received the clearance from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to load fuel, so that will happen in the coming weeks. We anticipate bringing it online either in the fourth quarter of this year or first quarter of 2024.
Well, that's incredible. Did you learn enough lessons from Unit 3 to make the 4 process easier?
Sure, there's always learnings when that you can apply to the next project, right? And so our testing sequences have gone more smoothly. We've been able to do things more quickly. So yeah, absolutely lessons learned.
Yeah, this is, and I know I'm understating it, a big deal. First time, as you mentioned, in 30 years that this kind of activity, this kind of construction has come out of the ground. Do we have people from other parts of the country, maybe even other parts of the world, coming to Waynesboro to study what Georgia Power is doing and to learn from it and take it back home?
Absolutely. I mean, we regularly host delegations from around the country, around the world. If you look at the nuclear energy industry, there's a number of plants under construction in countries across the globe. So the experience that we have been able to glean here, certainly sharing that with others.
What do you think the future holds? Will it be another 30 years, you think, before we see this activity in those other states or countries? What do you see with nuclear energy going forward?
Well, our policy and our philosophy around energy policy has always been an all of the above. So nuclear, we believe, is going to have to be part of that mix. But we're also making significant investments in solar. I mean, Georgia's been one of the fastest growing solar states in the country. Investments in our hydro fleet, doing more with batteries, more with storage, and certainly fossil generation as well. So from our standpoint, we're focused on keeping 3 reliably running, bringing 4 online, and then just an all of the above energy approach.
Jason, are there any opportunities for employment? People see these exciting things happening and they think, okay, these are tough times. Maybe that's a great place to have a career. Are there opportunities? And what should parents be telling their children to study so they can join you one day?
So, the energy industry is a pretty exciting place to be. And
Yeah.
I may be biased, but I certainly believe that the energy industry is a pretty exciting place to be. STEM curricula is always important. These units are going to be there for the next 60 to 80 years. So if a parent has an interest or a student has an interest, I certainly would encourage them to follow us.
Two more things I want to talk about. One, the team that built Unit 3 and that is building and almost finished with Unit 4. What do you have to say about them? That is, in my estimation, tons of men and women who have been working nonstop to make this happen. It has to just be an incredible moment.
Oh, it's the culmination of years of hard work of thousands of men and women, and it's a testament to their commitment to seeing this through as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't commend our co-owners, our regulators for their courage and their foresight to see this project through.
How much do y'all love Burke County schools? I give the Golden Apple Award out to teachers all over the CSRA, and that of course includes Burke County. The schools down there are so first class, and everybody I ask about says the credit goes to Plant Vogtle.
Well, we're proud to be part of that community. They're a great community partner. We plan to be there for years to come.
Well, they appreciate you, and we appreciate you as well. Busy week, as I mentioned. Jason Cuevas, thank you for being with me.
Thank you. Again, appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. When we come back, we're going to move from nuclear energy to the energy that you use in your home and how you can make your bills go down. There are several ways to do that. Our conversations with some of the experts at Georgia Power will continue in a moment.